Hi everyone, it's Maria here. It's been a few months since I've made a couple of journals, and leading up to the Dior one I want to make, I thought I'd tell a little bit of the backstory about Christian Dior's mother, Madeleine. So I actually have two travel notebook style or artist roll style journals. The first one is a field note style journal, a little bit smaller. Both of them were made using 1897 French documents, so the covers of the notary document. This one I folded down a little bit, so it's a smaller one for the field notes, but chunkier. And then a taller one, which is meant to be her rose garden or garden planning journal, because they actually lived in Normandy, France, in Granville, and they lived along the house was set along the cliff edge over the sea, the English Channel. So I thought, what a perfect way to tell his story and how he was raised, and maybe some of the influences of his fashion through his mother's gardening journals. So I'll go ahead and get started. It's been a while, so I'm not sure if I'll do this flip through very well. But this one will be chatty, so I'll try to put chapters or at least links below for the two different journals. So here's the first one, and again it's designed like an artist roll. Because the document was so large, I was able to fold it in three. This one is actually covered with two French linens, two vintage French linens. Top one is a linen ticking style. It has been washed, but I did stain it with some of the homemade stains that I made in Seattle a couple weeks ago. So it's not real dirt, but it is naturally made dirt, using mostly pomegranate and blueberries for some of the darker stains. And then of course a couple of blueberries as well. This color palette here is for a future wine journal. But I thought that would be fun, just to show you how I was able to. I'll link below the video that I followed of Sasibo's tutorial for how to make your own dies. And then, let's see, this little travel notebook or field notes label is just taped on so that you could actually either write your own field notes title on here or put a new label on. And I'll go ahead and get started. I was hoping not to have to edit this, but I might be editing this video. Set this one aside. Let's see, give you the measurements. So the smaller one is about 6 wide, 2 inch, let's say, yeah, 2 inches thick. It's a trifold. And then there's the back. It does have a leather back with an extended pocket, so it's not glued all the way down. Machine stitching mostly for this one. I did hand stitch this vintage metal piece. I got a bunch of metal and jewelry from Ruth Rubecourt. I'll link her below. It's from her personal collection. Her family, she comes from a family of textile artists. She's an artist and photographer, and she designs textiles as well. This fabric is from Aline. I'll link her below. She's on Instagram. And then the inner document itself has a thicker cardstock attached to it, because I knew this one would have to be pretty substantial to handle all of the specimens. Has a flax, vintage flax cotton on the inside, and that I got from Mia. She's also in France. And then I just have it closed with one of these elastics, just because it is gonna pop open. It is styled after some field notes guides that I've been binge watching of Jibin Neary's, obviously. You'll probably recognize her little tags here. I don't have as good handwriting as she does, so I did have to add a few typed words on there. You have room for your specimens, or maybe even your, if not your sticks, maybe your calligraphy pens or your pencils, because this was originally meant to be an artist roll. And then on the top cover here, I have a little piece of waxed paper. I followed the tutorial from, gosh, I'm forgetting everybody's handles on Instagram, but Wow. I'll just link her below because I can't think this morning. Actually, I can't think, period, lately. I've got too much going on, gardening. My hands are garden hands, and I'm trying to work at least part-time. But here's a map of Normandy, France. And again, they're in Granville, and they live along the cliff edge. So this is a Turkish map fold. I was waxing all sorts of papers just because I wanted to make things waterproof, but I also love the see-through texture of that. And then there's the back cover, and then I have labels galore everywhere. Thanks to the videos that Gibbet had, I just went on a label making binge, and then of course I had to purchase a few as well. So there's the cover. Should put that back later. Anyway, trifold style. So this could actually be your cover if you really wanted it to. I'll remove these plants or these specimens for now. And then you could just have a clip here to put maybe your own art on the cover. So this one here, field notes. So welcome to Granville, Normandy. Make some room. And we actually opened the cover up with a child's homework. And it looks a lot like maybe the houses in Normandy, even though it doesn't show the sea. It does show the timing of the sunrise and sunset. And I thought it was the sweetest, most perfect thing because the theme that you'll see between both journals is the house of Dior that he grew up in. And then here is a photo. I actually got this as part of a journal I got from, gosh, sorry, I'm forgetting everybody's name today. And then it's lined with one of my digitals here. So remember this scene here, they are on a cliff edge, and most of Normandy cliffs are made of granite stone. So how do you build a garden with stone? So this is Madeleine going around her new property, trying to figure out what the terrain is, what the climate is, and how she can build herself a rose garden. She has a passion for roses. So right on the front cover here, everything, all the pages for the most part, unless they are art pieces that I've made, or overhead projector film, is French, so vintage to antique, so you're going to see a lot of antique. Some of my slides that I made based on some vintage slides that I've seen, not the modern ones, but where they just simply had the specimen going up and then a little tag on the bottom describing it. So you'll have some journal space here. One of my sketched ferns, the reason I did that is because of the wild terrain, but also because the front cover is a British ferns book cover. And then this is the tree that Madeleine chose to line her property to protect it from the winds, because if you're going to plant a rose garden or any garden on the sea edge along the cliff, you're going to have to block it from winds. So she actually chose the Japanese pine tree. It's actually not part of the pine tree family, but you'll see that. I'm going to flash below either a picture or a link to the website where I found a lot of the aerial photographs of the family property. So this is just one of the wax pieces of paper that I was obsessed with making for both of these journals, so you're going to see a lot of those. Then here's an image of Madeleine and a lot of scrap pieces of paper. Some will be coffee stained and or eco-dyed, but most of them are just original, authentic, just because I do love my fountain pen, and you will probably see a lot of fountain pen sketches in both. This one's a stamp, Sampool stamp. You're going to see a lot of real specimens in this field notes. Here's a antique document. Look at that handwriting. And then this little specimen is actually inside here in this vintage glassine, is one of the ones that I used in my eco transfer using the Big Shot, where you just roll it. I'll link that tutorial below. And then some of the pieces that did work out are actually in both journals. But so this is one of the pressed leaves. I don't remember which flower, but so this is just floating. some images of the seashells she's finding along the shore. And then this journal will actually have a little specimen box, tiny little authentic seashells. These seashells actually come from Florida, so not quite Normandy, France, which is northwest of Paris. Again, along the English Channel there. But I've just filled it with little dried seashells for you, and extra little labels, a mix of Tracy Fox and some that I might have made. This is a specimen journal. Antique pages, a vintage postcard. Some of these postcards I might have gotten from journals that I've purchased, or ephemera packs. I tried gessoing some of the antique pages. These are Italian pages from Roxy Creation in Italy, but I don't know. I didn't want to gesso everything just in case the future owner just wants to paint on the pages. A lot of ephemera, a lot of bits of French ribbon, a lot of handmade slides using my overhead, what do you call that, projection paper, and then pieces of ephemera. Some of my embarrassing but simple sketches of seashells and plants, and a lot of pieces for journaling and or sketching and writing, or sketching and painting. So that's just tucked. So that I wouldn't take over and draw throughout your journal, I did add a lot of prompts, actual wildflowers that you would find in Normandy or northern France. So here's a list of wildflowers that she would find, and you know, not just wild roses, but probably the asters and the brambles, lily of the valley. That's the flower that Christian Dior is known for, or one of his favorite flowers, besides the rose. And then just a few antique pieces, again, to prompt you. This is one of the snowdrops that you will find in early spring in Normandy, and I just took some of the dried petals and leaves that I have pressed, plus some of the not eco dye, but the natural inks that I was making, where I was testing how it would look if I went ahead and painted on paper for you, so that you would have backdrops, and then you could journal on the back. But that's supposed to depict a snowdrop, and then of course everything has to have a little label, and if it doesn't, I will be giving you a lot of extra labels, a lot of authentic pieces of ephemera, because I love seeing handwriting. Not my own, but I like seeing handwriting in all these journals and all these delicious pieces of old paper. I'm better at putting the authentic thing in here than aging things. I'm really not good at aging things, I've decided. Plus, how are we going to use up all of our antique papers? This spread here, this is actually a digital I created of eggs, because everyone has these egg notebook, egg pages from their field guides. And then this is a little piece of the staining that I did when I came up with these blues and greens. It was an accident, because I had dropped some of my Ferris wheel press dip ink in on the paper itself, and it created these speckles on accident, so I just cut it out as an egg and added, of course, your field notes tag and number. And these were the colors. These won't be added to the book, but I do have my own collection of rocks. These are actual turquoise mineral rocks that were drilled for jewelry. But these were some of the color inspirations throughout the journal. And then, of course, some natural rocks that look like eggs. This one's from Peru. So this page here, because I'm not good at drawing birds, I'm actually going to probably add a bird page here from my field notes, or my bird book, English bird book. I figure if they're on the English Channel, the birds are crossing over. This I didn't glue down to be pockets. Sharon, she loves to make her pockets in the middle of the pages, and I love doing that. I love seeing that, but I figured the person could also decide, because this is actually a cotton rag paper here where you could still sketch or paint. And then of course another specimen, another egg specimen here. This is one of the, not waxed, but like a rice paper tutorial that Sharon had. And I just love how the eco paper that I was making, once it was waxed, actually reminded me of one of the eggs from the digital kit. So it's just on one of my last few pieces of khadi paper here you can journal on. And then a little prompt, birds found in Normandy, just a few. And of course some more of the antique book pages from Italy. And once you feel these cotton rag book pages, painting on them at least is my first instinct. Let's see, I'll just put this here. Of course, some of the fish that you might see in and around. These papers are pretty delicate, but what I like to do is I'll just put, you know, a little bit of the vintage French school book page covers as tickets or lining along them if you're a little nervous about tearing them. But, you know, they're antique. They've survived this long. They'll survive us. A few more of my specimen cards that I couldn't stop making. These are actual sand dollars. And then I just, of course, had to give everybody a specimen card tag. And then this is one of the seashells. You'll actually see that in miniature in your little collection of seashell box. And then this is my mixed media page. It's actually my favorite. It depicts the property of the Dior house. So when I was making my natural dye ink papers, this one actually was intended to look like the sea, the English Channel, and I made a few pages that were supposed to look like rock and or grass to depict the cliffs of Normandy. And this is how their house is actually situated. Again, I'll flash that picture below, but they literally are on the cliff's edge overlooking the sea. And then here are the trees, some of the early trees that Madeleine chose, the Japanese pine, umbrella pine, to line their property to protect it from the winds. And the house itself is from the Belle Epoque era, and it does have a hue of a light pink, very, very light. Some pictures will show it very dark pink, but it's not. This is a silver charm of a seashell. You'll have, this journal has one silver charm that I was able to purchase from a collector in Seattle. And then here's two more pieces of homework from that same kid who drew the house on the cover. I'd like to think of this as the village of Granville. And then, of course, the sailboats along the channel. And then, of course, your compass, just like on the cover with a map. They are northwest of Paris. So, and then there's space to journal on the back. Of course, you have to have your temperature gauge for the region, because if you're going to garden and go out exploring, you need to know what the local weather is. So I'm just going to go ahead and place that here to the side, because paper clip to the front is actually another Turkish mat fold that is glued down, the one that looks like their house, so that you could actually go inside and do some journaling. And this is eco-dyed paper. And then just push it down to naturally refold it. And I have it paper clipped. I was going to use a magnet, which you'll find in the bigger journal, but it was already too bulky. So on the flip side, actually, if you remove this paper clip, this naturally dyed paper, you'll see on the back how messy it is when you're only painting one side, but I kind of love how it looks like ocean splash. So you could actually sketch or draw there, and then you have this piece of vintage parchment paper style that actually has natural staining. I didn't add those for your sketches. And I just paper clip all this together again. Gosh, this is going to be probably my longest video, but I hope you like the explanation a little bit better than the music, especially with all the history of this family. We'll put the homework in the map back here. Sailboat. And then on this side is actually another very grungy field note style place to add your sketches, maybe your little sketches of seashells. I had one around here somewhere. Oh, here we go. So maybe this one in smaller form if you have a little tiny sketch. Actually, I have my book of ideas from Pinterest where I knew I was going to be making a garden book, a garden/field guides notebook, and a lot of practice sketching. So if you have little sketches that you didn't think would look good, like this was supposed to be a clamshell, a few days later you might change your mind and actually like it and add it if you haven't sketched on your little bits of coffee dyed paper yet. But little things like this and labels, that's how I got the addiction to labels beyond what Gibbet had made for her field guides. So I just literally glued this together. It's not even stapled together, but all the ideas that you'll see between the two books, and all of the tutorials that I followed and ideas about the different sketches. So anyway, there's the inspiration for all of this. And of course, Gibbet's art with her eco-dyeing. No one does it better, I think. Some of the lines inspired by Gibbet's notebooks also, and then a lot more of this transparency paper, because I like actually using that to not only keep things in place, maybe specimens, but also just note cards. You'll find some of these stickers throughout. They are modern stickers, but I like being able to actually put pressed flowers or dried flowers in them instead of gluing them down. I thought I'd let the future owner do that, and you'll find a lot of ledger, authentic French and or English ledger throughout. There's the back side of the eco die. A couple of spots for journaling and noting your own specimens. Some of these pages actually would look great with some of the taller pieces, but again, it's going to get really even bulkier. So a lot of the pieces that I've put in that are my own art are meant to be replaced. And then you can just keep all of your vintage and antique pieces in here. This one is an antique piece of paper that's meant for funeral announcements, but it looks like they kept a running accounts list. Maybe it's the menu or the budget for the funeral costs, along with an extension of receipts on the back. So if there are short pages, I went ahead and made them a little longer, just so that you could journal and or sketch along the pages even if they're shorter. Did I just have that like this? And of course, lots of layering, lots of teeny tiny tags, and be sure to look inside each and every little envelope that I've made. If it's not the vintage glassine, because I do have pressed flowers and dried flowers in them. But of course, replace them with your own specimens that you find. Don't want to squish that. Anyway, I'll fix that later. And then here's some eco-dyed, or the dyeing papers that I made. You'll find that some of the papers actually have patterns on them. This is the blueberry and baking soda color here, but you'll notice some of the blueberry got a little darker on the edge. This is the same tutorial from Sasibo. And then some of my early prototypes of the specimen tags. My brand new vintage and or antique dip ink and calligraphy pens are a little harder to use on some of the more modern and or coffee stain papers, so it tends to be a little scratchy, but that's okay because that means it's a little messy. Messy is good for this journal. This is probably the messiest journal I've ever made. I might actually put this in here. I'll remember how to make that. So you'll see my dad was a amateur photographer, so he had all these vintage slide holders. So I stole a couple of them. I snuck a couple of them just because I like the idea of making your own slide sketches. So inside there'll be 4 slots. I'll have some, I'll have some of my own art in here that you can replace. These are the glassine type of effect, and that is from Virginia. I'll link her tutorial below. And a lot of the different art paper will be arches primarily, or rag cotton, and I've kind of put little codes on the back. So this is multimedia paper. This one is Caslon, I think, brand, or arches. So look for the little code on the back if you're particular about your art paper, whether you paint or sketch. And then I've got a slide of the dragonflies that you can find in and around Normandy. So I got this again from Pinterest, this idea, because some of the old slides actually were just simple, like this, with the little tags on the bottom and then slices of the specimen on the inside. So I just wanted to keep my specimen tags just as simple as well. So you'll have 4 pieces of art paper there. I had this folded out. You can double fold it, but it was making it very bulky again. That was made in April, so I'll just go ahead and stick that color in there. Here are some of the grasshoppers and crickets found. And then, because everything is about layering your different specimens that you find or dry, I've given you lots and lots of little pieces of Italian and or French notebook book pages, as well as some specimen cards that I printed out from my favorite art supply. Gosh, I'm not going to remember anybody right now, so I'll just link everybody below. But here you can add that, and there is a little specimen on the inside here, along with its own personal tag, of course, and some more of Sam Poole's stamps. This was going to be the cord around the journal, but it got so thick, it's just a little piece of leather, so I thought maybe you could use that as, or make it into a bookmark, along with your little flower maybe. Little tags. I actually got this from a journal from Sharon, but it's too perfect because of the obsession of the butterflies in and around Normandy. Oh, there was a little piece of specimen that I'll have to try to remember to show you in the front that I forgot. But a lot more of this antique script writing from a notebook with natural patina. And then some of the specimens that I collected and pressed ended up looking like butterflies. So I just put that in a little jar to make it kind of look like a butterfly, even with its little antenna. So you can move these around. You can obviously stick them onto the pages, but I thought it's just sweet that way. And this, a little bit of rice paper just to cover up another specimen. Of course, you could replace all these specimens with your own, like I mentioned. I just love the purple, though, with the purple handwriting of this French letter. A little sticker there that was already on there. This is the center of the journal. 3 pieces of eco dye, not glued down, and a little bit of your vintage glassine. I did go ahead and glue this down using a little Mod Podge. The top petals aren't glued down. You could replace that, but I thought it looked too perfect with the pink and purple eco dyed paper. I didn't make that paper myself. I bought it on Etsy, but I did make some more of this wax paper from Sharon's tutorial. Obviously, I was doing everything from napkins to tissue. This is tissue paper from one of the Etsy orders for the supplies, and I just love how it feels. And of course, I think I must have added a little bit of rust that I made to the glue just to kind of give it a tint. And I love how it kind of pooled on the back there. Some more of that writing. This could be glued as a pocket, but I'll let the owner do whatever they want. some more specimens that you could replace. Most of these specimens are not glued down, they're just paper clipped, along with some of my tags that I made. And here's a list of all of the natural colors that I had created back in April when I was in Seattle. So you have the recipe, and then of course the trees that are naturally found, except for the Japanese umbrella pine, in and around Normandy that she actually used along the property to line it and protect it from the sea winds. And then of course some of this vintage or nearly antique ledger paper, French ledger paper from Ina. I'll link everybody. And then you will have 3 charms from Jibiniri. She obviously has great jewelry making skills, but she also has some of the unique little beads. So this one has 3, I think, at least, and I've put them on little bullnose corners just so they don't tear off. Little spots for some extra labels in case you need them, and some of my wax tissue. Oh, and this is part of the original document. Oh, I forgot to show or call that out on the other side of it. Oh gosh, where is it? The front of this document would be here. This is the one from 1897. So this is the original document and the original length of this document cover, or this journal cover. So there's the longer side of it with the butterflies. Okay, so back, so here's the seal. Most of these will have top or bottom tucks, just because I didn't want to waste any ledger. And then here's the other side of your slides with some of the long journaling and or sketching note papers. And then some more specimens that I just tucked in everywhere. And then this paper here, oh, this isn't it, but this is tea stain, but there is, you might feel a couple of pages that have the baker's lining on it. What I did was, let me find a clip just so that this doesn't bust open. Can you tell I've been watching a lot of Leslie's flip-flop journal tutorials and videos? But this is a vintage French tin, and I filled it. This is from Sarah, her Petit Papier shop on Instagram. I filled it with an artist's matchstick notebook that Mary Lou had on her Instagram, and it reminded me of actually creating a little artist's notebook that you could actually tear out the pieces, since I sewed right down the middle just to make it easy to pull out. And this is Arch's watercolor paper, cold press, so it's a little rougher. And then this is some of the eco dyeing or the natural dye experimentation that I had made to try and create the cliffs and the rocks of the Normandy mixed media piece that I have in the beginning. But I just thought it would be cute to make it look like a real matchbook. A sketch or painting a day lights up my way. And then of course your little pencil. And then I do have a couple of half pans magnetized in case you want to make this sort of your field notes, field guide, you know, painter's tin. You could remove this and put it in the back pocket, or you could just go out with a couple of colors and a couple of colored pencils maybe. So this will also come with the journal. So these 2 pieces here will come with the art journal. More stickers and vintage glassine to protect your own specimens that you find. One of the eco dye ribbons. These ribbons, any of the trims, I believe all of them are from Virginia. So they originally started out white, and then after I treated them with alum, so they all started out white, except the French ones already had their natural staining from their own past. But anything white, I went ahead and tried to do some eco dyeing just to see if I could replicate the colors that were on the cards on fabrics, and obviously it turned out really well there. couple spots to add your own images. This one is stitched down, this one is flipped, so you could sketch or write on the back or add your own gesso, but I didn't gesso any of these antique Italian book pages. It just feels too good. Let the owner do that. And then some of the waxing from Sharon's tutorial. This was a watercolor and it did smudge, but I actually love that smudge look because everything I take out into the field or into wherever I'm sketching ends up getting smudged anyway, and I love the framing. So I just added that with a clip here, one of Gibbet's little beads on the end, and then a piece of French botanical paper. I didn't have any of this left. I got this from Aline, also from Antique Textiles, and then some of that same vintage artist paper that was more towards the front. Some of the dragonflies that you'll find in and around Normandy. So these lists actually come from a nature preserve site where I was doing some of my homework before I assembled the field guide, just so I could try to put in some actual specimens that could be found there. This is a tea or rust stained book page that came with my coffee pack that I had purchased to put in here, and it's actually glued on as a page extension. I just have it clipped, but when you open it, you could obviously do some sketching on the inside or gesso and draw, and then a little more of that wax paper of that watercolor. And then some of these labels I printed to sticker paper, and I wanted to see what would happen if I wax these as well. And when you wax the sticker paper, let me clip this down, you actually get a washi sticker effect. So they'll still stick, but like a washi. So you'll be able to pull and, you know, move them about your journal. So I put a few of these, and I might put a few extras in here. I think I had to remove a lot just because it was getting so bulky. But I thought that turned out pretty awesome. So try it with your stickers. More labels. You'll notice I put anything bulky outside of the notebook just so it will actually close. But this is the other side of that cotton rag paper. And then of course another butterfly slide. And then here's a little quote from Christian Dior. And one of the oldest images of the house that I was able to find. So you'll actually find this image as part of the hexagon that I had made for this journal. So this is Madeleine Dior. She's in her writing gear, and she actually looks very fitting for this field notes notebook, very grungy. Early picture of the house where trees were starting to go in. I forget the measurement, but I think a couple tons of dirt had to be brought in because, again, the cliffs of Normandy are mostly granite, so you can't really grow much. Were brought in just so she could have her garden. And then, of course, the father owned his own fertilizer company. So I don't know if that's Christian there or his older brother. But this hexagon, if you open it up, there'll be two more pictures hidden. So this is the house once it was built out. And you'll notice they built outdoor rooms, and there's the sea and the cliffs. But look at all these trees they brought in after having to build up the dirt. But you'll notice a lot of outdoor rooms when you see the aerial of the site. And so you're going to see that in the second journal, that the journal itself will be a way to create or design your own outdoor rooms. And there's the family when Christian Dior was a teenager. So that one I have sitting outside of the notebook because this one is a little thicker. I do print them onto photo paper, the thinner 30-pound photo paper. And right here's a little glassine, again from that tutorial. I just have a few things tucked in there and some embossing, rose embossed, of an antique page. And then this antique was the newspaper or magazine print. It doesn't look like the dad, but it kind of reminds me of a father figure. So there's the dad right there. Not exactly. And then instead of building out the full pocket that I had intended in my prototype, because it was too thick, I went ahead and just lined it with see-through paper so that you could see some of the shells on the back side. And then there's the front cover of the Fern book, and then some scraps for you to use as labels, washi sticker. I know Leslie would love this. This is a shorthand. Nope, a little note in shorthand on the back, top secret note. And then just some ephemera for you to play with. And there's the back. And then this side actually is a pocket. I didn't fill it too much, but again, I do have this postcard that I got from Victoria, but it's too perfect because it looks like homes or a village along the seaside, and there is at least one lighthouse near Granville. And I just love this stamp, this masculine stamp. It's my favorite. So I might have to scan that before sending it away. And then the very, 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 very last piece that I could find of my khadi paper. So I'm going to have to buy more. This is my favorite all-time paper to sketch on. And then lined with one of the poster boards or book pages. Not real, it's a digital of the seashells. Your pocket lined with Edith Holden book page. And then you'll see the second fabric, the cotton flax fabric on the inside there. And then some more of these specimen cards or field cards. And ephemera, and then the other half of the map that is on the cover. So this is also part of Normandy. Where's North? I think this is North over here. Some of the islands just to the west of the cliff edge near Granville, I think. So just fold that up. And again, this was waxed, so you'll see through the graph paper that I had printed it on. It's pretty cool. So we'll put those back in here. I didn't want to overstuff it because, again, it was harder to close than I intended. And I did build it a gusset, so you'll notice this here with the fabric. It was meant to be like a 1/2 inch gusset to be able to close your journal, but of course I overstuffed it, so feel free to remove some of that. And again, replace all of the art with your own. And this could actually be used also as a bookmark or place to save where you're at in your field guides before you close it up. So there's the first one, along with its little sketchbook and its seashells and its own hexagon.